Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Scott. Hi, Heather.
Hi-
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. So we are here again together with Heather, and that's a mouthful. Try saying that 5 times fast. But we have our candidate here, Heather, for City Council. And then we also have Scott Zeidman here, who is running for school board. So, how are you both today?
I'm
Good?
good. I'm good. It's a hot day.
Yes, it is. It's a warm day here in Southern California. So we're going to talk today a little bit about both your campaigns and also take some questions from the audience that is watching. And we've had some emailed questions to us, so I'm going to be reading the questions to you both.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So the first question is for Heather. What do you know about Measure RE and what is your stance on it?
All right. So, Measure RE is the measure to increase our transfer tax on houses that are sold. So, right now, we actually have higher than most, and this will take us to the highest in the state as far as transfer taxes go. If you haven't heard about it, that's because it was put on the ballot at the very last moment at a council meeting. It hadn't gone through the financial advisory committee. They had to call a special meeting, and then it was added in a week. So all of this was done in a week. A presentation, everything. It was so rushed through. A lot of people haven't heard about it. A lot of people have reached out to me about Measure RE. So RE is not a good idea. I don't support it at all. I think if it's something that we need to do later on in the future, and I don't see why we should need to, it should be given the proper dialogue that it deserves. But we can't count on our homeowners to bail us out every time we're running low on funds.
Okay. Scott, did you want to add anything to that?
Oh, yeah. We're already so high to begin with, and we had the 4% for. We look at our houses, and it's only for $1.5 million and above. And do you think that's a lot of money? But the average house in Culver City is pretty close to $1.5 million. So we're going to be hitting our residents who are moving out, costing them a significant amount, and we're going to be hitting our business owners. If you look at a sale like Culver Center was sold not too long ago, we'd be looking at a 4% tax for the seller of that, meaning he or she would be unable to sell in the future unless he or she got 4% more. It's going to trickle down to the people who are renting those spaces. The small business owner is going to be paying for this 4% tax. It's more money for the city to be paid by our residents and our small business owners, which we shouldn't have to do.
Yeah, there's no way this ends well for anyone.
No, it doesn't. Okay, so let's talk about our next question. Our next question, also for Heather, what are your thoughts about the increase of crime and the safety for the Culver City residents?
I think we're all kidding ourselves if we don't think the criminals are watching and seeing which cities are planning to defund, which police departments really have their hands tied right now. I think that the more we push this issue, the worse it's going to get. Um, Criminals aren't overly smart, but they're not dumb either. They're watching us and they're seeing what we're going to do. So defunding anything by 50% is completely irresponsible. And I'll keep saying it until I'm blue in the face. It's irresponsible. We shouldn't do it. Defunding any program by 50% without a program to back it up or something instead of, in place of, it's reckless. And we shouldn't be jeopardizing the safety of our businesses and our residents and the people that come here for, something that didn't necessarily happen here. I mean, we have a wonderful police department. We don't have very many guys on patrol, guys and girls on patrol. On a good day, we only have 12 officers out there patrolling. Mm-hmm. So we can't afford to cut them by 50%. There's no way that ends well.
Yes. Scott, did you want to add to that?
Sure. Heather is right yet again. You think, first of all, anytime the economy goes down, crime goes up. We've got COVID. We've got people out of work. We've got people on unemployment. We've got unemployment takes forever to get if you ever get it. So people are hurting for money. They're going to turn to crime. And so the increase in crime is not a surprise. What we have now, though, is a city council and candidates who seem interested in cutting police by 50%, despite the fact that crime is going to exist and increase. And you wonder, where did you get the 50% mark? If you're going to cut, you look for areas that need to be cut, and then you figure out, okay, we can afford to do this, we can work this out. You don't pick a figure, 50%, and then cut to match what figure you picked out of your rear end. And that's what they're doing here. Maybe we need to increase funding. Maybe we need to decrease funding. You have to look at the budget. You've got to look at what's going on and see where, wait, we should do more training. That's going to cost money. Or maybe we don't need something. And then if you do that, you cut. But you don't pick a number and then match that number because some other city in some other state had a problem and they're doing it. So why don't we do the same thing? It's unoriginal, it's wrong, and it's just plain stupid.
And I know, Scott, in addition to cutting, the 50%, now the school board wants to get rid of the SROs. How do you feel about that?
One of the good things about having gone to school here and having kids that go to school here, and Heather, because you've been here forever as well, is that you can talk to students and ask them, what do they think? Because I'm old, and maybe what I knew when I went to school here may have changed. And so I have a number of students or former students working on the campaign. And I brought it to them and said, what do you think if we get rid of the SRO? And these are mostly athletes, kids who wouldn't be bullied, kids who probably wouldn't have many issues with an SRO missing. And to a person, they said, no way, I can't imagine what school would be like without the SRO. And what people don't understand is the SRO is not a cop on campus looking to bust people. He or she is a police officer on campus as a mentor, as a helper, as somebody who's there to assist. And then if something needs to be done, he or she can be called or is there to deal with it. Very small part of the SRO, the school resource officer's job, is actually busting kids. It's being there, making sure that the kids are safe. And that's what we want. When we drop our children off at school, we want to make sure we get them back in one piece. We want to make sure that they're not subject to bullying, that there's not crime going around, that they're not enticed to take drugs. So having an SRO, and let me back it up. I think everybody speeds now because there's not much traffic. And I'm sure as you're driving along the highway or the freeway and you see a black and white, the first thing that happens is your right foot goes from the gas pedal to the brake because there's a police officer there and we don't want to get caught. The same thing is true in schools. If kids were going to do something wrong and they see a uniformed police officer, guess what? They're going to fall in line right away. We can be proactive and stop things from happening by having an SRO on campus. So no, I think eliminating it is irresponsible as well. But once again, Heather's right.
Yeah, I mean, from my own personal experience at Culver High, when I was there, my junior and my senior year of high school, I actually TA'd in the discipline office. So I was in the office a lot when the SRO would come in. And sometimes they'd just, chill and hang out and we'd get to chatting. And I know from talking to them and from my experience going through Culver High and Culver Middle and everything else, they were there to really provide guidance and provide that extra, I don't know how you want to say it, but they were an extra layer of, straighten yourself out. We don't want to do this. And sometimes they'd come in and they'd just talk to the students and say, look, if you don't change, we're going to have no choice but to. And that's how this conversation started. And it helped a lot of people straighten their act out. They were a great resource for students who had questions. Some of them wanted to be law enforcement and they'd have all their questions answered. They were just such a resource. Very, very rarely were they there to arrest someone or anything of that nature. I mean, they hated doing that. And I don't think a lot of people know that about them.
No, the perception is that they're there to arrest our students. And that's entirely untrue.
So if you had to, I had a question regarding this, but you guys have been having a great discussion. So my question that I had received was stating, what if you could pick just one thing that was the most beneficial to students to having an SRO at school, what would be that one thing that you would pick?
I'm going to go a little bit off the board on this.
Okay.
I think if you think about it, most people's first encounter with the police is generally negative.
Mhm.
You're driving and you got red lights in back of you, flashing lights, and you've been pulled over. Or you've been a victim of a crime and you call the police and they can't solve the crime the moment they get there. So it's never a good experience to see a police officer. And we go on TV and you watch the news and it's never police saved this, it's police did something wrong. You
Mhm.
watch on television and it's police did something wrong. So whatever we see is always negative, negative, negative. Wouldn't it be great if our students could grow up learning that the police aren't bad people? They're people
Right.
like you and me. They're here, they wear a uniform. Their job is to put their life on the line to make sure everyone is safe. And you get that encounter with a police officer and you realize that he or she is a human being. He or she lives in our neighborhood, has kids just like we do, or has brothers and sisters, whatever it may be. And you understand that they're people and they're here to help you and they're here to steer you in the right direction. So if you get a positive encounter with a police officer early on, you're likely to have a different perception of police the rest of your life. So of
Right.
course we want to put the police officers on campus. Of course we want outreach. We want our students to see these people as helpers, not as people there just to arrest them. And I think the vast majority, 90, 95, 98% of the students will understand that and have a whole different perception of the police than they do right now.
Wonderful. So I have a question that kind of can be for both of you, but I'll start with Heather. And it says currently a joint committee of council and school board members exists to deal with pertinent issues for both bodies. Do you feel that this is enough, or do you have ideas on further improving this relationship? So we'll start with Heather, and then Scott, you can answer the same question.
I think that it needs to go a little bit deeper. I think we should be more involved with each other. Um, it's one of those, if we work together, there's a lot that we can do. Um, and while we may be working together, I haven't heard much out of it. I think that the general public hasn't heard much out of it. I think it would be something great if we, and I keep saying it, part of bringing the conversation to the people, sitting down and, having these conversations with, different neighborhoods or something else like that, where you can have council members, maybe a few members of the school board and the residents of that community or that section of Culver City, and we talk about what's going on. There's no way for us to read people's minds, and oftentimes by the time they approach us, it's too late. So if we're out there being proactive, I think we can do a lot more and we can do a lot better.
Okay.
Heather is now 4 for 4 or 5 for 5. I lost count of how many times she's been right. I was on the school board from 2007 to 2011. And one of the issues we had back then was city council and school board don't seem to get along. And that was entirely untrue. There's only 10 elected officials in Culver City, and they get along in general. But it's helpful for city council to let school board know what they're doing that somehow relates to the schools, and for the school board to let city council know what they're doing that relates to the city. And oftentimes they relate together, so we should be getting together and doing it. In my 4 years on the board, we had a total of 1 joint meeting, and that's not enough. And as you may or may not know, there's something called the joint use agreement, where the city can use school district property and the school district can use city property. And a good example is after the district got rid of the natatorium, the district started to use the plunge. That's part of the joint use agreement. The city uses the gyms at the schools. So there is a lot of interaction between the two, and yet there's not enough interaction between city council and the school board. And why wouldn't you want these two bodies interacting? Why wouldn't you want them working together for the common good? Because we all represent the same people. The same people that are in our school district are in our city, in our voters. So we should be working together as much as we possibly can, not isolating one board from the other.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a
Thank
lot
you.
more we can do together than we can separately. That's for sure.
Thank you for your answers. Okay, this one is for Scott. It says, how did the issues and challenges you had when you were last on the school board transpose to the issues and problems we have today on our school board?
Unfortunately, the issues I had last time are the reasons why I'm running again this time. So let me start with the fun stuff. And the fun stuff is making everything fair. We want equity. There's no question. There's nobody running in any position probably in this country that doesn't want equity. But that's great, and we're going to make steps towards that every time. So any candidate will tell you we want equity. It's not an issue because we all agree. We want to make it equitable. The issue we had in 2008, we had the Great Recession, and the state cut our funding by 20%. Well, that's a problem because we had already committed salaries based on what we thought we would be getting. And when you cut it by 20%, there's nowhere to go. So we had to maneuver and navigate through cuts to make it work, to keep the cuts away from the children as much as possible and still give them the full educational experience. And we did that without losing a single teacher, a single classroom aide, or a single counselor. And then we passed a parcel tax, the first one ever in Culver City Unified School District history. And that helped to bridge the gap between what the state was giving and what we got now. Fast forward 11 years. Well, with COVID, state revenues are down. We can't rely on the voters passing taxes because you cannot set yourself up with a budget based upon hoping that the voters pass Proposition 15. We can't rely upon grants, hoping that we can write more grants than we wrote in the past and that'll help the budget cut. We know that it's going to happen. The state's going to cut funding. Education is 40% of the state's budget. The state's budget's down dramatically. It would be a shock if they decided not to cut education at all. So we need to be able to navigate through those cuts yet again. Unfortunately, we had a bullet 11 years ago, and that was the parcel tax. And we were able to help with the parcel tax. Our school board already has a parcel tax, and they did that because they were spending too much money on salaries, on benefits, on everything you can imagine. And so they went to a parcel tax to cover their overspending. So now we don't have that option. So the same problem that happened to us with 2008 is going to be happening to us in 2021 and 2022. So unfortunately, the short answer to your question is it's the same. I got the same problems I'm going to be facing that I faced last time, which is why I came out of retirement to do this.
Okay. Well, we have a lot of people watching. So thank you all for watching today. We appreciate you guys. Next question is for Heather. Heather, let me read this whole thing for you. What type of changes, good or bad, have you seen in Culver City government, having lived here all your life?
Oh my goodness. There's been a lot, but I think the most notable change, at least to me, is I've never felt so unheard by a city council before. I've never felt more like my voice doesn't matter. And I've never felt so defeated going into meetings, knowing this is going to be a 4-1, or there's no chance that this is going to go through, or, I mean, things like that. I think back to like the easiest example is the mayoral rotation when Yoren was supposed to be becoming vice mayor. And everyone was talking about how it wasn't going to happen beforehand. And it was like, well, how do you know this? How is this going on? And so many people got up and spoke, and very passionately. It was a very, very long first meeting. And at the end of the day, they did what they wanted. And it's been that way ever since. And it's kind of mind boggling. Mm-hmm. And the other change, I think, is I don't feel like our city council is working for us anymore. It feels like they're working for them. They're trying to make a name for themselves. So maybe some of them have aspirations to run for higher office. But those are the biggest changes that I have noticed. And it's incredibly frustrating. And I think a lot of the residents that feel the same way, at least the ones that I've talked to so far, they all feel the same way. They're frustrated. They're tired of feeling defeated before meetings. They're tired of feeling like their voice doesn't matter, and they're tired of feeling unheard. And I think that's really the level of frustration here is just so high. I think that's probably the most significant change since I've lived here.
Wonderful.
Robert, can I jump in on that?
Of course.
Okay, so the question was great. I'm not sure who gave it to you, but that was a really, really good question and a great answer as well. But what we have with Heather running compared to others is she can answer that question because Heather's been here for 25 years.
Mhm.
Heather went to our schools. Heather went to our parks, has been on our parks, has dealt with everybody around here. She's a child of Culver City, and now she's a grown-up of Culver City. She was on our anti-bullying task force, the first one was ever created in the state of California.
Yeah.
She's been there. She knows what's going on. And so when you ask her, what changes have you seen? She can go back to when she was a 9 or 10-year-old and seeing what's going on and seeing how downtown used to be. You look at other candidates who have been here 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, even 9 years. They're relatively new to the city. They come in with their own perceived ideas of what they want the city to be without the historical knowledge of actually living here, of actually being here. They're newcomers to the city. That doesn't mean that they're not qualified. It just means that they don't understand what the city's been like, the good parts of the city, what we can do with the city, the camaraderie that the city has. They're newcomers with their own ideas, whereas Heather's been here forever, has seen the good, the bad, the ugly, and can then make things so much better. And that's one area that, with the exception of Albert, I guess, and Yoren's been here a long time too, but Heather, Albert, and Yoren, they've been here for years. Heather's been here her life. And that makes a huge difference when you're looking at any elected official. I didn't answer your question, but I just thought I'd mention that.
No, you added to Heather's answer, and that's fabulous. So we do have some comments here. Heather, did you want to put them up on the screen, or
Sure.
how do you want to handle those? We have Al watching, Marta. We have Can Dance, Maria. There's several people watching. You're getting lots of hearts.
So I guess there's only a few questions here. Some of them we've already answered, so I'm sorry
Right.
to them before. But let's do Can Dance's question, because I don't think we specifically addressed this one. So how are the SROs introduced to the children?
It's a great question. There are a variety of different ways they're introduced, but they come on campus, and they're not just Culver City Unified, they're also for all the other Culver City schools, the charter schools and no charter schools, the private schools. And so what will happen is there may be assembly, there may be an opportunity to meet them. They may just happen to be outside, in which case they'll come up and talk to the children, the parents. And so there's not generally a formal assembly that says, here's the SRO, he or she is here to help you. But there are times when the SRO has an opportunity to meet with the children, meet with the children's parents, which is a huge part of what he or she does as well. So I can't really give you an answer because there is no specific answer for that. At each different school, it's different.
All right. And following up kind of on that question, Can Dance has a very long one, but we're going to put it up anyway.
Want me to read it?
My experiences until the last 2 years with law enforcement officers have been negative/protective, as you shared, Scott. My fears and concerns have forced me to be intentional with all law enforcement officers. I stop them and engage with them. What can be created for kids to engage with safety officers to understand their roles?
And that's part of the SRO program. And once we get this thing back where it needs to be, then we sit down with the police chief, with the SRO, and say, look, one of the concerns is we want the kids to engage with these officers. What can the officer do? What do we need to do as a school district? Do we need to have the officer come into a classroom for 15 minutes and introduce him or herself? Do we need to have a general assembly? What will work and what's the best way of doing it? Now, I'll tell you, everybody running for school board believes they know everything about education and everything else. And I don't. I'm a business person who has a law degree. And so I have to defer to the experts there. And the experts would be the chief of police. The expert would be the SRO who's done this before. And the expert would be the administrators and the teachers. What do you think your children will be comfortable doing? So I can't give you an answer because honestly, I don't know. But I know we need to engage the children with the SRO. We need to keep an SRO, and we need to do it in a way that the children won't feel threatened and get an opportunity to speak to this person.
I think, just thinking about when I was going to Elvern Con, even in elementary school, we'd have police officers that would come in and read books to us when we were little. As we got older, we had the DARE program and we interacted with an officer there. But the frequent contact was really important. And I think it took away a lot of that fear and that anxiety. And even now, thinking about my 6-year-old niece, we've always fostered, these are the people that are there to help you. Why do they show up? Because they're here to help. We've had her go and, participate in the Santa's sleigh. And One time she had birthday cake left over from her birthday party. I said, "What do you want to do?" She said, "Can we take it to the police?" I said, "Sure we can." And I called the police officers and they were all too happy to take it and take photos with her. And I think it starts at home also. I mean, there's a great deal that the school can do, but it also starts at home, and it starts with us talking to kids about police officers and what they do, and not creating this fear, and really helping them understand that, especially in Culver City, our officers do so much good for our children. I think that that's really important for us to vocalize to the children in our city.
Yes, I agree with you. That's wonderful.
And
Okay,
actually, we have Al here. Al Casillas was an SRO. He said, "I personally tried to greet students in the morning as they walked into school. Also career day." Yeah.
Yep. And you have a question from.
By the way, Al was a great SRO.
Yes, he was. You have a comment from Louis. He's saying, "Don't let Culver City become Sacramento, a city governed by one party."
Mm-hmm. And I think there's a comment from Jeff, also a question from Jeff.
Yes, and that question is, once school is back in full session, the madness of traffic around the high school, middle school, and Farragut will return. Any answers to solving this issue, Mr. Zeidman?
And as Jeff knows, and many of you may know, my young son, who is now no longer young, he's going to be graduating from UCSB, was hit by a car in that area, broke his leg, still has permanent scarring. Oh, and by the way, the police and fire department did an amazing job with him that day as they picked up this bloody body from the street. We need to work with changing our start times. There's no way around it. There are too many cars going into that area. We did, with the help of the SROs and with the help of the city, get a $447,000 grant after Jason's accident to help work on turning the streets into one-way traffic during the mornings and the afternoons, and that's helped a lot. We still need to stagger school times. It has to be done because we can't have as many. There's an Office of Child Development, there's middle school, there's high school, there's Farragut Elementary School, and there's various other people going in that area, and it wasn't built for that. It wasn't. And so staggering start times is the best way of doing that.
Wonderful. Okay, so I think we've gotten most of the questions that were for Heather. One last one was, how do you intend to keep our community safe? For you,
me?
Heather.
I intend to keep our community safe by working with our law enforcement officers, getting them the additional resources and help that they need. I think that it's all about working together. It's about open communication together. It's about finding ways for all of us to work together. We can't do this with people who are unwilling to listen and unwilling to learn. And our police department has done a great job of adapting and learning what our residents' wants and needs are. They're very open to dialogue. They're willing to listen to everyone, but it seems like the other side isn't. And that's really hard if you only have one thing and you're going to stick to that one thing. And no matter what they say, unless it's that one thing that you're demanding, you're never going to be happy. And as we sit here and we talk about the future of policing and what that looks like in Culver City, it's really important that we're all open-minded and that we all work together to figure this out. But for right now, obviously defunding, I do not / won't let that happen. I think that that's just a mistake waiting to happen. I think that we need to add additional resources to our police department, not take away from it. So that's
perfect. So I've got another question from Brianna Padilla Marquez. She's saying, I went to CCHS and graduated in 2002, and I'm still friends with the SRO.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you, Brianna. I appreciate that comment.
Just thinking about it, when Curtis Massey died, I was in high school, and you would not believe how many students gathered to express their sadness, their grief, their condolences. at Culver High. And he was a school resource officer for a good long while. And, I think that that's a testament to how impactful an SRO can be. I mean, there was a lot of kids that were really broken up about that and very sad. And, you know, uh, our SROs are people. And at the end of the day, they have the best interests of the children at heart. And I think that that's the most important thing to remember.
So I think that there's a connection. Al Casillas might have been that SRO. I see that Al has made a comment saying, hi, Brianna. So I'm assuming, Brianna, that's who you were talking about. And yes, he was a fantastic SRO. Okay.
Heather Raphael, I apologize. I've got to take a conference call.
Okay.
It's been great.
Scott, thank you for coming on and joining us. We appreciate you. We're going to read a couple more questions and then we'll be off too, but thank you so much.
Yes,
thank you so much. It was a pleasure being on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, so Heather, there's one from Vicki. It says, today the county announced that elementary schools can start to go back in person with guidelines. How do you feel about that? Are we ready?
Vicki, I feel pretty good about it, actually. I'm not quite sure how ready we are, but let me rephrase this a little bit. I'm happy for the kids. I know, especially like for my niece, she's 6, she's in 1st grade. That social interaction has been gone for so long. I mean, she didn't get to finish her year in kindergarten. She didn't get to have, a summer filled with friends from her kindergarten class. She didn't get to do a birthday party with the kids from her class. And now she's sitting in front of a computer doing her learning, and it's really hard. You have these 6-year-olds sitting there, and I don't know who got the idea that 6-year-olds can sit there for very long, but they can't.
Plus, they're not learning social skills.
Exactly. They really need to go back. Are we ready? I think that it's not necessarily are we ready. I don't think that any of us really feel ready, but I think that it's a matter of figuring out the right pace, figuring out how to make this work for us. Maybe we stagger start and stop times to begin with, but I think it's time. I don't know if we're ever going to feel completely ready. I know it's very nerve-wracking for so many people, myself including, because like I said, I interact with my niece a fair bit, and is there a chance that I could catch this higher because she's back in class with a bunch of kids? Sure. But at the same time, I'm so happy that she's going to get that social interaction. I'm so glad that she's going to get to run around and just be a kid for a little bit. I think that's really, really important right now.
I couldn't agree with you more that, they need the social skills and, but also we do need them to be safe as well. I'm not sure what the right answer is, but you gave a very great answer for that. But, the people making these decisions, it can't be easy.
No, and no matter what you do, somebody's not going to like, the proposed plan. But I think that we just need to do the best we can and get these kids some normalcy again, and really make sure that they're learning. Especially the younger grades. I feel like it's really important. These are critical times to learn reading and math skills that are going to, be with them forever.
Do you know if the school that she's going back to has taken some precautions as far as safety measures that are, plexiglass around their desk or any of those kinds of things?
He goes to Elron Con, so I haven't heard anything from CCUSD yet.
Okay.
But like you said, it was announced today. So I'm sure we're going to hear very, very soon about the plans for CCUSD and how we're going to work this out. But I think that if we are supportive of our kids, and I know some of us are still nervous, but we can't let the kids know. I think that that's really important, that they feel safe and they feel supported going back. So I would love to see them going back as long as we take measures. And like I said, maybe it's staggering start and stop times, or maybe we use the high school kids, maybe they don't have to go back as fast as elementary school. Maybe we stagger the classrooms and move some things around. I mean, there's a lot of things I think we can do. It's just finding the right fit.
Well, and that kind of goes back to that question that someone had asked about how the city council and the school board can work together. And this is a great example of where they can work together well, you know. So we have a few more comments. Maria says kids need to go back. And then you have Louis saying that adult softball needs to open up again. I've been playing in CC for 25 years.
I
Wow,
know.
that's a long time.
Marie, my brother is so excited for that to start up again too. My brother plays, and I know he's been missing it something fierce. So I think he's with you there.
Mm-hmm. I think there's, you know, pretty much everybody wants to get back to some form of getting out there and socializing or doing some activity that, you know, you can see people regardless.
Exactly. I think everyone is feeling overwhelmed, and it's been so long since we've been able to see our friends and do things, and a lot of plans have been drastically changed. I know my brother got married during the pandemic, and his wedding was obviously very different than how they had planned, and they actually had to push their ceremony back a year. Um, you know, and it's been really hard on so many different people. And you know, as humans, we're social beings, and
Mm-hmm.
not being able to get together and socialize. I mean, I miss hugging my friends.
Right.
You know? I mean, there's nothing better than you're going through a hard time and you go see your best friend and get a hug. I mean, there's no more powerful thing in the world than that. So I'm hoping that the city will push the county to try and help and reopen, especially for some of the businesses that are still greatly impacted by the closures. You know, our salons, we just need to push on the county
Mm-hmm.
to make those changes.
Absolutely. You have another one that says, Maria says, it's my son's last year in high school. He and his friends want to go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's last year of high school.
Oh, you know, I feel for him. I can't imagine. I mean, I wasn't one that enjoyed high school very much. I was bullied a lot. But I can't imagine not going there every day and seeing my friends. That's really hard. It's really, really hard, especially in your last year. You know,
Absolutely.
you
There's
worked
so
so
many
hard for that last
activities.
year and all the activities and everything else. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's hard. It's
It's
hard.
the best. It's the best year of school, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's it, right?
exactly. That's it. You're done.
And I do feel
Yeah.
for them. I hope that your son gets to go back to school. Marta says, I haven't heard our current council talk about a plan for our city. And then she also says, I think high school students should go back first. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think that, you know, high school students and it's kind of it's a weird way that we should think about it. I mean, at the same time, high school students should definitely go back. Every kid should go back. I'm just saying, for the little ones, this is kind of crucial, you know, reading, writing, um,
Right.
crucial learning time, and it's really hard to do online, especially with the little ones. I mean, they can't sit still long enough to make this happen. So, um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we just have to come up with a plan to make it work. But
Well, I hope
I'm
that you
sure
are
we'll figure
thinking of
it out.
plans.
Yes. Yeah, like I said, there's some plans thrown out there. I'd like to see them stagger times. I'd like to see us use other spaces, you know. Um, I think that there's a few different ways that we can do it to get kids back, at least a little bit to start. So,
Okay, I think one more, which is from Marta again. It says elementary and middle school kids should be in pods.
yeah,
How do you feel about pods?
there's a lot of them that are. I know a lot of pods are, you have to pay for them, and it's really hard on families that are out of work right now that can't afford it. Um,
Mhm.
but maybe, you know, classroom pods, like I said, with the staggering start and stop times, maybe that's the way that we have free or no cost pods. Um, because so many parents are out of work, and where they would normally maybe be able to afford it, they just can't right now. Everyone's struggling to get by. So
Wonderful.
yeah.
Okay, so I think those were all of the questions, and we've gone a little bit past our time.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are watching, we really appreciate you watching. Please vote for Heather and go to her website, heatherforcitycouncil.com.
Yes.
You can donate there to her campaign. If you need a lawn sign, any of these things, please contact her. If you have any further questions, leave them here.
Yeah, I do go back and I read all your questions, and if I don't answer it on the thread, I do answer them in the next live. I'd also like to say thank you to Scott Zeidman for joining us today. Scott is running for school board, and he was actually a school board member when I was in high school. And he's got some great plans, and he's really great with oh, thank you, Louie. He said, go Heather. Thank you. He's really great at what he does, and he's a really good person to have in hard financial times. So I will also be linking his website in the description of this video afterwards, so that way you can visit Scott's site, read all about him, donate, get a lawn sign, etc. So thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next Wednesday again with another live with Together with Heather.
Yep, 3:30 to 4. So stay tuned, and I'll see you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.